Boston winters are harsh. Freezing winds blow through the stone houses, and people on the streets walk with their necks tucked in. April Watson turned up the collar of her thin coat as she hurried up the stairs of her old apartment building. Her arms were laden with grocery bags, and her shoulder carried a laptop bag, the weight of which added to the burden on her tired body. "Mom, are you home?" When she opened the door, 6-year-old Jacob came running toward her. His thick brown hair and big blue eyes resembled those of his father, who had left 2 years ago. April hugged her son and put the grocery bags on the floor. "Where's Mrs. Flanagan?" April gently stroked her son's hair, remembering that she had left him with her elderly neighbor. "She already went home. I finished my homework and drew a picture for you." Jacob proudly showed her his drawing. It depicted 3 people with childish writing that said, "Mom and me and Dad." April's heart ached. Her son was still hoping his father would return. "It's a lovely picture," she said, forcing her best smile, and headed to the kitchen. "I'm making pasta tonight. Want to help?" While preparing dinner, April's cell phone rang. Her expression clouded the moment she saw the screen. It displayed the word "Mother." "Hello, Mom." "April." "Finally, you pick up." Martha's voice contained its usual irritation. "Have you heard Brittany's wonderful news?" April sighed as she put down the knife. "What is it?" "She's engaged. To a wonderful man named Michael Reynolds. He's an executive candidate at a major IT company. Brittany has really made a smart choice." April understood all too well the hidden meaning behind Martha's words. "Well, congratulations," she replied emotionlessly. "If you had graduated from college and found a proper job, you wouldn't be struggling like this." Martha never failed to criticize her daughter's life. "A single mother, living in that tiny apartment, working freelance, it's not stable, is it?" April wanted to argue, but she was exhausted. "I'm satisfied with my choices, Mom." "And how's Jacob? Still at that public school?" Brittany mentioned that all her friends' children attend private schools. "Jacob is fine. He likes his school," April answered, gazing out the window. "Anything else?" "Yes, you'll be coming to the family gathering on Sunday, won't you?" "It's to celebrate Brittany's engagement." April hesitated. Every family gathering was an ordeal for her. It was a place where she would hear about her mother's and sister's successes while her own life was implicitly criticized. But remembering her father's last words before he passed away 2 years ago, "Cherish family bonds," she answered, "I'll be there. If you bring Jacob, make sure he behaves. Last time he almost broke a vase, remember? That was an accident. He just. Anyway, Sunday at 2 p.m. Don't be late." Martha hung up. April couldn't move for a while. Her life was filled with bitter memories of constantly being compared to her sister, Brittany. During their school years, Brittany was an excellent student and very popular. April, on the other hand, who was passionate about art, was continually called a dreamer for failing to meet her parents' expectations. When she decided to major in graphic design in college, Martha recommended a practical profession, but April stood her ground. Later, in her junior year, she fell in love with Tom Watson and married him right after graduation. Brittany and Martha had opposed this hasty marriage. "Mom, is the pasta ready yet?" Jacob's voice brought her back to reality. "Sorry, honey, it'll be ready soon." April remembered her father's will. Family bonds were important to him. However, most of the inheritance was managed by Martha and Brittany, with only a small amount left to April for Jacob's education. Even that was controlled by Martha, who declared, "You're a spendthrift." While boiling pasta in the kitchen, April stared into the distance. It had been 2 years since Tom left home. Child support was rarely paid, and she worked day and night. As a freelance graphic designer, her talent was beginning to be recognized, but she was far from having a stable income. "Mom, are you okay?" Jacob looked up at her with concern. April smiled. "Of course. I was just thinking. The thought of facing her family on Sunday made her chest tighten. Once again, they would celebrate Brittany's success while implicitly criticizing her own life. But she had no choice. For Jacob's sake and for her father's last wishes, she had to endure. When a glossy cream-colored envelope was retrieved from the mailbox, April already sensed something. Only April Watson was written on the surface in elegant cursive. She opened it and looked at the invitation inside. Please attend the wedding of Brittany Watson and Michael Reynolds. Her son's name was nowhere to be found. Is that a letter from Grandma? Jacob asked during breakfast. April forced a smile. No, it's from your aunt. Aunt Brittany is getting married. Can I go too? Jacob's eyes sparkled. What's a wedding like? April chose her words carefully. It's a very nice gathering. But that night, after putting her child to bed, April called her sister. Brittany? Thank you for the invitation, she began calmly. I wanted to ask one thing. Jacob's name wasn't on the invitation. Brittany chuckled lightly on the other end. Of course not. April, my wedding isn't for children. It's a formal ceremony at the Boston Plaza Hotel. Having children would ruin it. April took a deep breath. But Jacob is family. He's 6 years old and can behave properly. Sorry, but the answer is no, Brittany's voice was cold. Besides, what would Michael's family think if a single mother shows up with a child? Excuse me. April's voice trembled. Are you ashamed of my situation? Face reality, April, Brittany declared. After college, you chose not to get a stable job, rushed into marriage, and now you're a single mother living in a cramped apartment. Meanwhile, I understand, April interrupted. Be happy, Brittany. After hanging up, the room fell silent. Outside the window, spring rain washed over Boston. April wiped away her tears and opened design proposals for tomorrow's work. But she couldn't concentrate. The following week, Martha called. You're coming to the bridal shower, right? Martha asked confirmingly. Next Saturday. I'll be there, April replied. But Jacob. Don't bring the child, Martha said immediately. This is a gathering for women only. Don't you have anyone to watch him? April sighed. Mrs. Flanagan is in the hospital, and my friends are all busy. Always making excuses, Martha's voice was filled with disappointment. Find someone to watch your child. Please cooperate on Brittany's special day. In the end, April missed the bridal shower. She had nowhere to leave Jacob and couldn't afford a temporary daycare center. That evening, she received an angry call from Martha. Why didn't you come? Brittany was very hurt. You're so selfish. I had nowhere to leave Jacob, April explained. That's because you chose an unplanned life, Martha was critical. Where is that child's father? Why can't you leave him with his dad? April remained silent. Since Tom left home 2 years ago, there had been little contact. The last child support payment was deposited 8 months ago. 2 weeks before the wedding, April dipped into her small savings and bought a navy blue suit for Jacob. He was jumping with excitement in the fitting room. I look like a grown-up. I can't wait for Aunt's wedding. April felt her chest tighten. Jacob. I'm not sure if we can go to the wedding yet. Why not? Jacob's expression clouded. Adult reasons, she gently stroked her son's hair. But you can wear this suit for other special occasions too. When they returned home, there was a voicemail from Martha. April, I'm calling about the wedding seating chart. You're coming alone, right? Please let me know. April picked up the phone and called her mother. I want to bring Jacob too. Here we go again, Martha sighed. Brittany already told you. Children are not invited. But we're family, April pleaded. Dad said, cherish family bonds. Jacob is Dad's only grandson. Your father. Martha's voice faltered for a moment. He was an idealist. Reality is different. This is Brittany's special day. 3 days before the wedding, April called Brittany again. Please, Brittany. Let me bring Jacob. He's really looking forward to it. Why don't you understand? Brittany's voice was cold. My wedding must be perfect. With children there, who knows what might happen? He's well behaved. I promise. The answer is no, Brittany said firmly. If you want to come, come alone. If not, don't come at all. After hanging up, April cried. She whispered to her father's photograph, "What should I do, Dad?" The day before the wedding, there was a final call from Martha. Don't come tomorrow, Martha's voice was tense. Brittany is nervous with stress. Your presence makes her anxious. What are you saying? April was surprised. I'm your daughter and her sister. Of course I'll attend my sister's wedding. April, Martha's voice hardened. You always cause problems. Don't ruin this important day. Dads will said that everyone should gather for important family days, April said firmly. I'm coming. That's what Dad would want. If you're coming, come alone, Martha's voice was cold. Don't bring that shabby child. Understood. After hanging up, April peeked into Jacob's bedroom. He had placed his new suit by his pillow and was sleeping peacefully. April made her decision. We'll attend as a family, she whispered softly. For Dad's sake too. On the wedding day, Boston's sky showed clear blue. April woke up early and carefully dressed Jacob. The new navy suit with a white shirt and a small tie made his young figure even more adorable. After combing his hair, polishing his shoes, and finally attaching his father's heirloom cufflinks, Jacob stood proudly in front of the mirror. Mom, do I look handsome? April smiled. The most handsome in the world. She herself wore a lavender dress she had bought a few years ago. With no room in her budget for a new dress, she did her best with what she had. She carefully put her hair up and applied minimal makeup, which accentuated her beauty. Let's go, April said, taking a deep breath. Today is a special day. The Boston Plaza Hotel was one of the most prestigious venues in the city. April and Jacob arrived after 2 bus transfers and a final 20-minute walk. At the hotel's luxurious entrance, sophisticated people were stepping out of luxury cars one after another. Mom, what an amazing building. Jacob said, wide-eyed. April squeezed her son's hand. Yes, it is. Now, let's go. At the reception, a young woman stood holding a guest list. When April said, Watson, the woman checked the list and looked confused. I'm sorry, but I don't see your name. April hid her distress and quietly said, I'm Brittany Watson's sister. I'm family. The receptionist consulted with an older man who seemed to be her supervisor, and another list was checked. Eventually, the woman returned and said, I'm sorry about that. Please go through. However, her gaze clearly showed doubt. April and Jacob walked through the marble hallway toward the wedding venue. At the entrance to the grand chapel, April hesitated for a moment. Many guests were already seated. Remember to be quiet, April whispered to Jacob. They sat in the back, trying not to draw attention. Jacob sat with a tense expression, his back straight beside his mother. Good boy, April gently stroked her son's shoulder. Just then, noisy voices were heard from the hallway. Brittany, in her wedding dress, was walking surrounded by her attendants. She seemed to be making final preparations, indicating that there was still some time before the ceremony began. Brittany happened to glance into the hall and spotted April and Jacob. Her expression changed instantly. Her face, full of joy, twisted into anger and surprise. She quickly said something to her attendants and entered the hall. April felt her heartbeat quicken. Jacob looked up at his mother anxiously. Is something wrong? Before April could answer, Brittany was standing in front of them. The pure white wedding dress enhanced her beauty, and normally she would have been a beautiful bride. But now, her expression was distorted with ugliness. I didn't invite you, Brittany's voice was surprisingly cold. Poor single mother, get out now. People around them turned, casting curious and confused glances. April was at a loss for words. Jacob clung to his mother in fear. Brittany, we're family, April said in a low voice. Her voice was trembling. Have you forgotten Dad's last wishes? Family. Brittany said mockingly. I won't let a failure like you ruin my special day. Your presence, and that child's, damages my image. Jacob was about to cry and clung to April's arm. Mom, I want to go home. April tried to stand up, but it was too late. Hearing Brittany's shouting, Martha had rushed over. She was wearing an elegant blue dress, but her expression was as angry as Brittany's. April. What are you doing? Martha raised her voice too. Don't embarrass your sister. Get out. The surrounding guests were clearly displaying uncomfortable expressions, whispering among themselves. April felt her face getting hot. Shame, anger, and sadness mixed within her. Mom, we're family. Dad said. Your father is gone. Martha said coldly. Today is Brittany's day. Don't ruin her happiness. At that moment, two men who appeared to be hotel staff approached. They gave off the impression of security guards. Is there a problem? One asked politely but firmly. This woman and child were not invited, Brittany answered immediately. I want them to leave. The security guard looked apologetically at April. Ma'am, please. Will you leave quietly? One grabbed April's arm, and the other placed his hand on Jacob's shoulder. Mom, why? Did I do something wrong? Jacob asked in a trembling voice. His eyes were filled with tears. April suppressed her body's trembling, trying to maintain her dignity. You did nothing wrong, Jacob, she hugged her son and quietly said, we're leaving. Guided by the security guards, April and Jacob left the chapel. Behind them, Brittany's voice could be heard. Quickly, let's start the ceremony. Let's forget that embarrassing scene. April walked to the hotel entrance, holding back her tears. The security guard said apologetically, sorry, it's our job, and let them out. The spring sunlight felt blinding. Away from the hotel's luxurious entrance, on the street, April and Jacob looked forlorn. Jacob was now crying. Mom, let's go home, he wiped his tears with his sleeve. Does Aunt hate me? April knelt and looked into her son's eyes. No. Your aunt just has her mind full of herself right now. She stood up and tried to call a taxi, but there were only a few bills in her wallet. Not enough for a taxi from this upscale district to their apartment. Let's walk to the bus stop, she suggested. That's when it happened. A black limousine quietly stopped in front of them. April froze in surprise. The car windows slowly lowered, and a stranger appeared from within. He was in his early 40s, with refined features and a friendly smile. Are you April Watson? The man asked gently. April was surprised. Yes, how do you know my name? The man opened the door and stepped out. He was wearing an expensive dark gray suit. I'm Daniel Reynolds. Michael's brother, he extended his hand. And this must be your son Jacob. Jacob hid behind his mother, nodding shyly. I saw everything that happened, Daniel said with a serious expression. It's unacceptable treatment. April, Jacob, please get in the car. April hesitated. But. Please, Daniel's eyes were full of sincerity. Let me hear your story. Besides, it would be difficult to get home from here, wouldn't it? April held Jacob's hand, thought for a moment, then nodded slightly. Thank you. The limousine door opened, and they were invited inside. Beyond the closed door, the wedding ceremony was about to begin. The interior of the limousine was luxurious and calming. Sinking into the soft leather seats, April felt as if they had wandered into a different world. Jacob looked around the car with wide eyes. "I've never been in anything like this before," he whispered softly. Daniel took a bottle of water from the minibar and offered it to them. "Please. You must be tired." April accepted it with gratitude. "Why would you help us?" Daniel looked out the window. The car was slowly leaving the hotel grounds. "I saw what happened from the window. It was inexcusable treatment," he said with anger in his voice. "You have every right to attend your sister's wedding. To be thrown out like that. Brittany has always been." April faltered. "Tell me your story," Daniel gently encouraged. After a slight hesitation, April began to tell him about her life. How she studied graphic design in college, married young, how her husband left, and her struggles as a single mother. And the constant criticism from her sister and mother, and her late father's last wishes. "Dad said, cherish family bonds. So I..." Her voice trembled. Daniel nodded quietly. "You did the right thing. Family should support each other, shouldn't they?" Jacob was looking at this strange gentleman with interest. "You're the brother of the man my aunt is marrying?" "That's right," Daniel smiled and gently stroked his head. "You've done nothing wrong. You shouldn't have been treated that way." After giving the driver some instructions, Daniel turned back to April. "Actually, I knew about you." "About me?" April was surprised. "After Michael and Brittany got engaged, I visited Boston several times. Once, I came across your design work. It was wall art in a small cafe." April remembered. A few months ago, she had been commissioned to create a mural for a local cafe. "I was impressed by your talent," Daniel continued with a serious expression. "Then I did some research and found out you're a freelance designer. Your work is very impressive." April felt a mixture of embarrassment and pride. "Thank you. I run an architectural firm in New York," Daniel said. "I've been looking for a design department leader. I was planning to meet you this morning when I came to Boston early, but..." "No way," April stared at him in disbelief. "Would you like to use your talents at my company?" Daniel asked with a serious expression. "I promise a sufficient salary. I'll also help you start a new life in New York." April was speechless. She had never dreamed of such a development. But Jacob too. "Of course, I'll help arrange a school for your son," Daniel said kindly. "New York has excellent public schools." Jacob suddenly jumped excitedly in his seat. "New York? Where the Statue of Liberty is?" Daniel laughed. "That's right. Would you like to see it?" April was still confused. "But why go so far? We just met today." Daniel looked out the window thoughtfully. "To be honest, I was concerned about my brother's marriage. I wanted to know what kind of woman Brittany was," he sighed deeply. "And today, I saw her true nature." The car had left the city and entered the highway. "But what about the ceremony?" April asked worriedly. Daniel showed a determined expression. "I intend to return to the venue. I must tell my brother the truth. Surely, the ceremony won't be..." "It's not your fault," Daniel said firmly. "If this is the kind of person my brother is going to spend his life with, he has the right to know." At those words, April suddenly felt guilty. "But I'm Brittany's sister. Her happiness. What is true happiness?" Daniel quietly asked. "Would a marriage built on lies and pretense truly bring happiness?" April fell silent in thought. Indeed, Brittany's attitude didn't seem like the beginning of a married life based on love and respect. "The driver will take you to the hotel," Daniel said. "I'll return to the venue. I'll talk to Michael." "I'll go with you," April suddenly said. She was surprised at herself, but it felt like the right thing to do. Brittany is my sister. I have a responsibility too. Daniel thought for a moment, then nodded. I understand. But what about Jacob? I'll go too. Jacob said energetically. I don't want to leave Mom alone. April looked at her son, touched by his courage. Thank you, Jacob. The limousine made a U-turn and headed back to the hotel. April's heart was pounding. She couldn't imagine what was about to happen. Upon arriving at the hotel, Daniel spoke to the reception, and the three were promptly guided. The ceremony had not yet begun. In front of the bridal room, Daniel knocked. Who is it? Brittany's irritated voice was heard. It's Michael's brother, Daniel replied calmly. The door opened, and Brittany appeared. Seeing April and Jacob, her complexion changed. What are you doing here? You were supposed to leave. We need to talk, Daniel said firmly. Please call Michael. Brittany was confused and trembling with anger. The ceremony is about to start. Don't interfere. At that moment, Michael appeared from down the hallway. What's going on? He looked confused. Daniel approached his brother and quietly said, Do you know how April and Jacob were treated? Michael shook his head in confusion. Daniel briefly explained the situation. Michael's expression visibly changed as he listened. Brittany, is this true? Michael turned to his fiancée. You wouldn't understand. Brittany raised her voice. This woman and child tried to ruin my special day. Michael quietly gazed at his engagement ring. I feel like I've seen your true self, he said quietly. I cannot share my life with someone with such values. He tried to return the ring, but Brittany wouldn't take it. You're joking, right? There are 350 guests waiting. Just then, Martha appeared. What are you doing? The ceremony. She froze when she saw April and the others. It's too late, Michael said with resolve. I'm canceling the ceremony. The venue quickly became chaotic. Martha and Brittany were distraught, and the guests were confused. Daniel led April and Jacob to the limousine. Let's start a new life in New York, he said quietly. You deserve to be happy. April looked back and saw Brittany and Martha crying hysterically. Complex emotions spread in her chest, but Daniel's words resonated with her heart. To a new beginning, she nodded slightly. The limousine door closed, and the car slowly left the hotel. The New York skyline glimmered through the window. Standing by the window on the 15th floor of a Manhattan high-rise apartment, April gazed at the distant lights. 6 months ago, her and Jacob's lives had dramatically changed. Mom, look. Jacob came running with a drawing he had made. It depicted 3 people. Me and Mom and Daniel. April smiled. It's beautiful. Daniel will be pleased. Her job as the design department leader at Daniel's architectural firm had allowed her talent to flourish. She was highly valued by clients and, for the first time in her life, had financial stability. Above all, Jacob seemed happy at his new school. The living room door opened, and Daniel returned home. I'm back, he greeted them with a warm smile. Welcome home, April replied, a bit bashfully. Their relationship had deepened naturally. Starting as a professional relationship, they eventually began spending weekends together, and last month, Daniel proposed to her. April hadn't answered yet, but in her heart, she had already decided. Mom, phone for you, Jacob brought the living room phone. It's Grandma. April was surprised. It had been 3 months since Martha's last contact. The last time they spoke, she was still full of anger. Hello? April. Martha's voice sounded weaker than before. I need to talk to you. April felt anxious at her voice. What's wrong? I've lost the house, Martha said in a trembling voice. Brittany lost her job too, we have no one to turn to. April was momentarily speechless. After the wedding with Michael was called off, Brittany's life began to crumble. At her workplace, fraudulent accounting was discovered, and it came to light that Brittany was involved. Martha could no longer pay the mortgage on her house. "I don't know what to do," Martha sounded humble for the first time. "You're our family." After hanging up, April explained the situation to Daniel. He listened quietly to her story, while Jacob watched with concern. "What do you want to do?" Daniel asked gently. April thought deeply. "I want to give them a new opportunity," she resolved. "As Dad once said, I want to cherish family bonds." Daniel took her hand. "I love your kindness," he smiled. "I'll help." A month later, Martha and Brittany moved to New York. Through April's introduction, Brittany began working as a receptionist at her company. Though the atmosphere was tense at first, over time, Brittany acknowledged her past mistakes and was born anew with humility. Martha also began a new life in a small apartment, and for the first time, she started building a true grandmother-grandson relationship with Jacob. On Christmas Eve, the entire family gathered at April's apartment. Daniel prepared the meal, Jacob was delighted with his presence, and Martha and Brittany displayed peaceful expressions. April gazed at her father's photograph and whispered softly, "Dad, I finally understand. Real family isn't about blood ties, but the connections of hearts that care for each other." Daniel put his arm around her shoulder and whispered in her ear, "Will you give me your answer to my proposal in front of everyone tomorrow?" April nodded with a smile. "Yes, of course." Outside the window, snow had begun to fall quietly over New York.